Good morning, Aries, and welcome to a brand new month. Hope everybody's doing great. It's good to see you here today. My name is Nicholas Ashbaugh, and this is your monthly forecast. We're going to be taking a look a month ahead, as we always do. So we'll be reading for March. All of the February readings are currently on my main channel page. So if you need to look at them, you can go to one of the playlists there. A reminder that since YouTube reorganized things, it'll be under the live portion of the tabs. So just a heads up there. So what we're going to be looking at today can be used for Sun, Rising, Moon, Venus, any aspect of your chart that you happen to know, and the format is right here. I begin with channeled messages, and channeled messages basically are what comes to me in dreams. This is the beginning of the forecast. This is when I start to work with my guides and bring messages to you. Right after we do this, we'll get into the cards and we'll take a look at all of the information coming through for the month ahead. I just want to start by saying I'm so happy that you could spend some time with me today, and let's work together to see what's going on for you. So let me just pull up the presentation here, and as I'm doing that, I'll set up what the sort of general energy was as I was going through dreams last night. And it was really about the in-between spaces, and there's like a fancy Latin word called liminal, and that's really how I would summarize all of this, is that sort of stepping point between where you are. So I was just looking at Apollo, he's getting a drink. The space between where you are and where you want to be. When you're kind of like shedding the skin, but you're not fully ready to kind of embrace the possibilities. So what this often kind of comprises includes rites of passages and crossroads. And to me, these are very exciting things because it is all about growth. And it's really just about managing ambiguity and some of the discomfort that we have as we go through these growing pains. And so what is this month about? We're going to kind of break it down in 3 slides. The first is a gateway moment. And what better card to indicate a gateway than transformation or death? It's the death of an old self. This card doesn't need to be taken at face value. It's a very sort of symbolic card. So an end of something and a beginning of something new. It's transformational. Liminal, when I looked up the Latin roots, was literally about a threshold. So you're standing at the threshold of change. You could also think of this instead of astrology, astronomy. It's kind of like the event horizon of a black hole, the point from which you're really not going to go back to where you were. And where you're headed is the great unknown, basically, sometimes. It's this new expansion. So in this gateway, I think there's like what I really like to sort of embrace this is, there may only be a few of these moments in your life where you can really make a splash. And for whatever reason, the month of March is shaping up to be a month where you can really start to make a pivotal movement or shift in your trajectory. So why not? Why not embrace that? It may not always be easy to deal with the energy of change, but it more often than not is worthwhile. And oftentimes the most difficult changes end up being the most fulfilling or important changes. So let's just say this. It looks like the month ahead is going to be eventful, exciting, and transformative. Let's go to the next card and see what this doorway is bringing us towards. As I said before, this can oftentimes comprise a rite of passage. We think of things like weddings and graduations as some of those sorts of rites of passage. There can also be moving away from home, a loss of someone that you love. No matter how you shape it, though, there are important movements in your life. One thing that I talked about this week in one of my 1-card daily readings is that I don't believe in failure per se. If you learn from an experience, you're not failing, you're learning. It was a difficult experience. It may not have been the most ideal experience, but it's still a growth that you had in your life from something. And as long as you're growing and changing and moving, your heart and soul is getting exactly what it signed up for on this planet. So a rite of passage can sometimes be challenging, but it can sometimes set you up for a really beautiful moment, and you're not going to repeat the same mistakes that you made before. It's always about doing the best that you can today and better than you did yesterday. If you're doing that, you're succeeding in my book. Once you give yourself credit for being able to move through these moments, then you're like, all right, I'll just take a step at a time, like the Fool card here, and I'm going to learn from each step. Some of these are going to be steeper, some of them are going to be easier, but it's not going to have to be something that's overwhelming me. This will get you out of that feeling of the 2 of Swords and bring you into the 2 of Wands. So instead of feeling like I don't know where to get started or I'm afraid to get started, you think to yourself, okay, I see the possibilities. As I was doing some research, many of the liminal or gateway gods have multiple faces. Janus is the most familiar one. January is named after Janus. Hecate in Greek and Roman mythology can have up to 3 faces, though sometimes she just has 1 or 2. She's the goddess of crossroads, entrances, the moon, and of course magic. And Janus sits at that sort of separation between the past and the present, which is why we named the first month of the year after Janus. So what is all of this sort of like, how can you connect it to you where you're at right now? You're not meant to just look at the goal at hand. You're not meant just to ruminate on the past or what could have been. You're meant to look in both directions. Again, learning, planning, and moving. And you have to move through the gateway. So this you have a whole month, and you're watching this early, you have 2 months to really step through the crossroads. But the multi-faced goddesses and gods are also reminding us that, I mentioned the 3 of Wands. I only have room for so many pictures on this card, but the 3 of Wands, success is incoming, but only if you're keeping your eye in the right direction. So we have to stay tapped in and aware. And as long as you do that, I think this can be a really exciting month. And as we look at the cards, we're going to focus on areas where that awareness needs to be focused. So let's review and then let's get into the cards. Suffice it to say, there's going to be some exciting changes over the next 6 to 8 weeks. The important thing is to embrace the changes and to know that they're setting you up for success. And that all you have to do today is to do the best possible, to do better than yesterday, and to apply the lessons. And really, as we look at all these multi-dimensional, multi-directional gods and goddesses, it's about seeing things from the bird's eye perspective, from different points of view, and also seeing that there might be an unexplored or unexpected path that opens up for you as well. Okay? So let's go ahead now and segue into the Celtic Cross. Again, this portion of the reading is going to allow us to see what Spirit wants us to focus on. After this, I'll expand it and we'll take a look at health, wealth, love, and destiny. All right, everyone. Good to see you. Welcome. I'm glad you could again take some time to be with me today. All right. So let me just get my screen set up here so I can see what you're seeing, and then we'll get started. All right. So hopefully everybody's doing well. And I was reading the comments. A lot of you are dealing with some cold weather, so please stay warm. Know that we just kind of had that nice shift between, I think it's the midway point between the solstice and the equinox. So days are starting to get longer. Seasons are starting to move and shift, which is probably why the liminal energy wanted to come through in this moment in time. Let's see, this got moved to the side. There we go, that's better. Hey, Apollo, what's going on, buddy? So many nice synchronicities so far. If I take my picture off for just a second, we have the moth, and then we also have this sort of divine feminine energy around death and transformation. So I'm already seeing a lot of synchronicities coming through for us, which I love. So let me just rearrange a couple of things here so I can see things better, and we'll keep going here. All right, let's get started, folks. We're going to begin with one of the best indications of that in-between state. We have a beautiful moth coming through, which is, for me, it's kind of even more gentle on some levels than a caterpillar. It has much more of a nocturnal energy. Instead of that hard-shelled chrysalis, the cocoon is a little bit softer. And it's reminding you that during this period of time, the important thing for you to do is to really wrap yourself up in comforting and secure and supportive situations where you feel like it's safe to explore and to expand. Sometimes when we put ourselves in a vulnerable space and we want to try something new, have you ever noticed there's certain people that you feel comfortable sharing that with and others where you know they're just going to say, why are you doing that? Or you can't do this, or what about that? And so really, before you start to sort of step into any change or energy of change, think about the people around you that are going to be open-minded, open-hearted, and supported. Begin with those. And most importantly, whenever you're on one of these paths, is to yourself believe and support yourself. Because if you are unsure or uncertain, then it starts to attract that same energy in others. So really believe in yourself, believe in this potential, and know that the cocoon, the transformation energy, this means that for many of you, it's not going to be immediately obvious. You're not going to get an immediate return on the change or the energy of change that you're putting out there, but you are indeed on the right path. And you just have to give yourself time to develop and move into whatever it is you're trying to do, okay? So a little bit of patience is the first message that we've got so far. Let's go to your centermost card, and we have the Nine of Wands here. So this is a card of perseverance, survival, pushing through to make sure that you get what you need to get done, and sometimes being a little bit tired and a little worse for the wear, but not giving up. You're very close to completion of a goal, very close to basically being able to just let something be. But this last leg of the journey is the most important, so don't give up. Sometimes you need a little bit of a push from someone else. So for those of us that can afford to, like maybe if you're doing a lot of things and you know, like home improvement, for instance, you could hire help. If you're in a company and there's a lot of projects, you would hire a project manager to deal with that in-between work. Someone that would keep you accountable to deadlines, someone that could help you make some of the decisions, someone with whom you could delegate some of these tasks. All of this would be helpful. But if it's just you, it's saying, you know what, we're going to get ourselves out of bed today, get this done, and then I can relax. So it's that little push of motivation that you're either going to hype up in your head or have someone externally do for you, okay? But once that's done, it's worth it. And basically the first thing that I see is just finding a motivator or motivation and sticking to that. As we look at what's crossing this card, we have the Page of Swords. So some of you are already busy on the next project. This is almost like having another iron in the fire, right? So you may be wrapping up one thing, starting to write a proposal or a pitch or a brainstorm for the next thing. You might also have some incoming messages that require your attention. Pages need to be communicative. So the most important thing that you could do is communicate status. This is a very corporate message, but this is what's going on. This is a communication of where you are, what you need help with, what questions you have. And this is good in relationships too. You could just say, I'm going to be running late today. Can you help with this? Or I'm sorry, I forgot about this. Can you help me with it? Just let people know where you're at, where you dropped the ball, where you need some help. And that communication will help you get through this better. All right. So be communicative, give people credit. Don't be afraid to say something difficult. Say it sooner than later. Like I'm confused or I need help or this is too much. Those sorts of communications need to happen sooner than later. All right. If you do that, I feel like everything's going to be moving you in the right direction. Okay, let's move on to the deep past. So when we're looking at what's motivating you or where the motivation may be lacking, I think some of you might have just lost the thrill, right? With whatever it is that you've been working on. So, once we've proven to ourselves that we can do something, it's kind of interesting. That can be that's the first sort of thing that can kind of get in our way of being motivated. It's like, well, now I can do it. Why am I doing it? So then you actually have to go to the bigger life purpose, the bigger sort of, is this aligning to my path? Is the money, is the title, is the teamwork enough? Do I need something else? This card is also about competition. So for some of you, maybe the desire to compete has become fatiguing, or you just don't want to do that anymore. That was one of the reasons I decided 8 years ago to stop doing corporate work. It wasn't necessarily because of my boss or my job or the company, which was a good company. There just came a point where I thought, this isn't it. This isn't what I want to do. I want, if I'm going to create stuff, I really want to just compete with myself and see how far I can go in different areas of my life. I don't want to be pitted against other people. So some of you may just be not interested in doing that anymore. It's a reason that athletes retire, or people want to start their own business or start something new. So this new liminal period that we talked about earlier could just be the work is not engaging anymore. So keep exploring. Now, if we look specifically at this illustration, there's a wasp or hornet's nest. And you also want to know where and when it's worth kind of like shaking things up. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can't change people's way of working or being. And what happens is, this is like a piñata, but you don't want to hit that piñata. It's going to be bad. So sometimes it's not worth it. If people are ready and willing, they'll sort of like listen. And if they're not, no amount of pushing, no amount of, vocalizing is going to make it work. Okay. So you have my, acknowledgement and support if it is something that you want to do, like a different shift in your life for a job or school, etc. All right, recent past comprises 2 cards today. I always look at the first one as like what we need to focus on, and then this is sort of like what's either dragging it or driving it. So couldn't ask for a better card coming through to kick off the month in the recent past. For those of you that are watching me live in February, this is now. So the Queen of Pentacles is saying, keep your eye on what it is that you're trying to do. You're going to finish it. You are going to complete that 9 of Wands energy at the center. This is a card that specifically focuses on resources, your home, and then also personal development. So what I love in this card is the peace and tranquility here. We have the dog at her foot. We have that cute little squirrel. And of course, that big old coin, which is representing something that also might be released or birthed or created. So anything that you put your time and energy into, starting now when you watch the reading and going all the way to the end of March, it's a really good period for bringing things to fruition. There might be a little bit of challenge in sometimes the motivation, but it's going to get done and it's going to be worth it. Now let's look at what was beneath the card, which could be just as important as what we were looking at. So fatigue. Are you tired, Aries? You might be, some of you. When was the last time you gave yourself a little bit of a period of rest or relaxation? When the 4 of Swords is reversed, it's the opposite of what we see here. So instead of feeling like you can be at peace with something, or that you're resting, or that you're allowing things to move on, it's almost like you're holding on to things, you're having a hard time focusing, you've been working too much, or you're not getting the quality of sleep that you need. It's not necessarily so much about the quantity, although we all need a little bit. It's the quality. It's sort of like I get a feeling of unrest or fatigue. So do what you need to do in this period of time to really prioritize this part of self-care. It was interesting, before we started today, one of my friends and I were leaving a couple messages for each other. She mentioned the importance of rest, because without it, you do lack the focus. I know that without rest, I can't, it's not just focus, but the patience is gone sometimes. You'll snap at someone unintentionally, and you can also miss something. You can get sloppy. So do yourself a favor. If you have the capacity to take a day off or take some rest and relaxation time for yourself, it's going to be like the single best investment that you can do. Turn the camera down. We'll look at the crowning card here. We have the 10 of Cups in the top position. So I love this as your crowning card, because it's showing me that people are really receptive to what it is that you're putting out there. And it also feels that many of you are putting an increased focus on others and like the impact that you have on others. And again, this is a very sort of grown up and mature energy. When we're younger, we tend to focus more on ourselves. We tend to focus more on our own needs. And as we get older, it's sort of like, well, how does this benefit the whole? What kind of legacy am I leaving? Also, and this is This is true of those of you that have lost people that you love in your life. You realize how finite. I never say life is short because it could be long for some of us, for many of us. But life is for sure finite. There is an end and a beginning, or a beginning and an end. And in this liminal sort of reading today, we want to make sure that the in-between, when you're standing in that point between the two, that it's the best it can possibly be. And what's one of the best things that you can do? Have some fun with the people that you love. Spend more time in the relationships that you care about. Make an impact or a splash in the world around you. So all of that matters this month. Prioritize people. Is it a good time to meet and mix and mingle? Yes. Could love come into your life? Yes. Could you deepen an existing love relationship? Yes. Will we look at that later? Yes. All right. What's coming through in the near future? Speaking your mind, speaking up. Also, not being afraid to edit, revise, or try new things. That's kind of like the spice of life. If it's constantly the same old, there's a reason we say it's like plain vanilla. It gets kind of boring after a while. We have to try some new things. So don't be afraid of editing and shaking things up and trying new things. That's something that I do all the time. A lot of times I'll see resistance. I like to remind folks that we never would have gotten the formats and the videos and the things that we got if I didn't try new things. So we have to constantly experiment because you never know what else is possible. And this is true for you too. If you have something to say, spit it out. Try to do so in a way that is as constructive as possible. So being concise and being direct doesn't mean being cruel. So they're not a mutually inclusive thing. So you can be kind and direct. And if you can do that, then you're going to be powerful this month and impactful. When we look at how people are viewing you and how you're showing up, pretty good. Another 10, we have the 10 of Pentacles here. So if anything, what I'm getting is peer pressure and familial pressure for you. The 10 of Pentacles can be people coming to you and saying, you know, especially family, are you going to come to this event? Can we count on you for this? Or I need some help this weekend setting this up. Or do you want to hang out tonight? Lots of that kind of stuff factoring into your life right now. And the good news is that typically indicates that you're worth it. You know, you're in high demand, but you don't have to say yes to everyone. The reversal of this card is about discernment. Maybe potentially some delays for some of you, but mostly discernment. And the 10 of Pentacles does also symbolize good things with money, and in the environment we have the Wheel of Fortune, which we'll talk about in just a second. So there could also be work-life balance issues that are kind of coming into play right now, because when I look at what's going on around you, it's the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. Some of you might have just landed a new job. You might have just moved into a new apartment house or living situation. You might have just moved in with somebody. Could be a roommate, could be a love situation, but the two tens and these two positive tens, the 10 of Cups and 10 of Pentacles, they're both domestic cards. You can actually see it on these illustrations. Here it's a bunch of friends, but it can also be lovers. And this can be friends, family, coworkers. But I'm getting a lot of intermingling and mixing of people this month. So give it time to settle and make sure that you're not getting lost in the shuffle. So let's move on to the environment card. What's going on in your environment? We have the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. People at work may be asking you to work more. You may be more in demand. They may want to know your opinion more, in which case don't hold back, because you're being tapped on the shoulder for a reason. Like, hey, we think you're good for this, or you've got some experience with that. What do you think? And rather than going into the edit mode, you could say, well, off the top of my head, this is my opinion. That's it. Don't say, well, I'm not an expert or I don't know. You could just say, this is my opinion on this, but I'd like to have, if you need more time, say, well, thank you for asking. Can you give me like 5 minutes or something to sort this out? And I'll get right back to you and I'll give you some advice. If you need to look something up, you can look something up. But sometimes we're put on the spot. So just do your best in that moment, unless you're being pressured to say yes or to do something you don't want, which can be indicated sometimes with the 9 of Wands. And you can just push back and say, no, this is how I feel, or no, I need to get some more information, and then we'll talk about it. But these are value cards, folks. 10 of Cups, 10 of Pentacles, Wheel of Fortune. Good month. This is a good month for you, okay? Now let's look at what some of the challenge may be for you. When we look at hopes and fears, also opportunities, we have the Hermit coming out of his shell here. So here's the card reverse. Let's look at it upright. I like to remind people that Typically the Hermit holds the star, but in this particular deck, we also see the keys and time here. So I updated my wealth card to remind people that wealth is resources too. It's how you spend your time and money, and your time in general. And that's what this particular card is showing, is like you've learned the lesson. And for some of you, it's saying the Hermit is pulling back. So maybe you needed to pull back a little bit and regroup, but there's a balance, and this Hermit reverse is going to find the balance so that you know when to give, you know when to take, you know when to speak, you know when to not sort of like shake up the hornet's nest like we saw here. And all of this comes through maturity. And it feels like many of you are stepping into like a more mature version of yourself for whatever reason this month, and it's a good thing. I like it. This is one of the wisest cards in the major arcana, many times shown as a wizard or a sorceress, because it's basically spent the time and done the homework to basically set itself up for success. So I feel really good about your general trajectory this month, okay? You're really headed in a great sort of direction. King of Wands in reverse. It is the ultimate boss card, second only, at least in the minor arcana. In the major, it would be the Emperor, but right up there with the Emperor. Basically, if there are things that you need to have done, if there are ideas that you want to see implemented, if there are things in your own life that you want to manifest, he's pretty good at it. Just as good as the Queen of Wands, because they're equals in this. So, you know, she can make things happen when others would think that it's impossible. Same thing with him. The reversal of this does show a sort of stubborn energy. There's no other way to say it. So there are times and places where that stubbornness will be well received and worth it. And then there are other areas where it could be a little bit off-putting. So you really want to stay open and also stay firm. Like, I think there's a nice way to do the two. Especially if there's something that you believe in, but you can hear the frustration or the feedback in someone. You can say, I understand why you may be nervous about this, but let me explain to you why it's important for us to do it. And let me also kind of explain, I had the same feeling that you did before. So you're acknowledging, but you're standing firm. That's at least staying open and acknowledging the feedback. I think that would be important if we embrace the best version of the King of Wands reverse, which is stand your ground. Okay? But standing your ground is also about active listening and empathy. You'll be more effective at that. And that's pretty much it. If there's anything that you really want to put your mind to this month, this is the month to do it. Boss energy coming through loud and clear, as well as all of the transformational liminal stuff that we talked about earlier. Okay? We're going to further expand this forecast looking at health, wealth, love, and destiny, beginning with the health card, which it comprises mind, body, and spirit. And as I put in the disclaimer, I'm not a substitute for an advisor in your life when it comes to finances, or I'm not a substitute for a doctor or a therapist, but I can help you see what the energy is with respect to all of these things. So let's take a look at mind, body, spirit energies, and starting off with this particular card here, which was all about basically moving into change. So some of you may have gone through a change where you've lost someone in your life. Very well could be a mother or a mother figure. And if that's going on, then this period is basically just a reminder of your strength and your power, because to move through that transition is never an easy thing. It's also reminding us that as we get older, we do start to embody the energy of mother and father and child. We're all three, kind of like our own little trinity within, right? You become your own mother, father, self energy. And also you could put on top of that spirit. So there's a lot of different energies within all of us. And we sort of, when we come into the world, they're fragmented. But one of the blessings of age and loss, and this is what the sort of spirit of transformation wants to remind us, is that we rediscover our capability for self-care, self-nurturing, self-management, self-sufficiency. So for many of you, that's one of the big lessons this month is, look at how much you can do by yourself. Whether or not that was a choice, or whether this is an evolution and you're just starting to discover this, it's a powerful thing. This is also just saying that some of you may need to take better care of yourself, and some of you may need to sever some ties with people in your life that are trying to come in and take control, or maybe not allow you to be as free as you should be. Okay. And, it's a tricky sort of balance, but you'll figure that out. But ultimately, this is transformation. And if we also see death and mother and put them together, this would be transformative change that allows for you to create, to deliver, to embark on something new. It's very much leading into the Queen of Pentacles, right? Because I said she can be the energy of home and parenthood and birthing. Okay. For those of you that might be in an empty nest syndrome, or again, just moved away from home, it can be either side of this. It's more of a symbolic separation. And it's just saying, again, you embody everything that you need. It's nice to have the other person, but you don't need the other person to be whole. Let's take a look at the cards and see additional messages with respect to mind, body, and spirit. And I really want to kind of take it above health and well-being is really what this is. So I added that word to it. So for well-being this month and for just general health, here's what I see. The big thing that's pulling you maybe out of balance, the fact that the card is even in the reversed says this, is your general sort of relationship with work or school or extracurricular for those of you that are retired or unemployed. It's all the other things outside of your general obligations that's pulling at you as well. I think that some of you may also be carrying stress in the head space. So it could be because of TMJ, it could be a migraine, it could be just persistent thoughts that are also affecting sleep quality. So for all of those things, work with the appropriate professionals. I'm just here to kind of highlight energies and where they might be pinpointed for you. Work smarter, not harder. That's going to be really important. And if you're not motivated, find something that brings passion in your life. It doesn't mean you have to quit your job, but it might mean that you need something besides work to create the balance in your life as well. Overall, a lot of energy could be coming through at night, which also explains this sort of nocturnal disturbance here. This is a nocturnal animal or insect rather, and this is not being able to sort of rest during that period. So there could be a lot of intuitive messages coming through. There could be a lot of creativity or a lot of anxiety at that period of the night. So really take care of yourself, use meditation and exercise to balance that out. Speak to a professional if you need to. Let's see what else is coming through here. I mentioned the head. This also rules the throat. So a lot is going on here for the month of March. So again, we have inclement weather in the northern hemispheres. So make sure when you're bundling up to cover the throat, make sure that if you're outside, wearing a mask, wearing a scarf can help a lot to just sort of like filter out the air a little bit and, just protect the esophagus and the throat a little bit. You might have a sore throat. And then again, if there's stress here, that's what I'm picking up on. Otherwise, it's pretty good, folks. The other thing that I'm seeing here with the Hermit card is the desire to get out, and taking a walk is great. Even just kind of facing your desk towards the window so that you at least see in a different direction, something to change up the environment, it would be advantageous. Okay. So that's everything with respect to health. Let's move on to wealth. And this can be the resources in your life, which include money. It can be your overall life purpose for those of you that might be retired or just embarking on school. It can also be your career. It's bigger than just the coins in your pocket, although we often see it as the coins in our pocket. All right, so with respect to what a perfect card to come through for wealth. Abundance is a state of mind, right? So if you think to yourself, I'm so blessed, I'm so rich to have this experience, to have these people in my life, then you tell the universe that you're grateful and that you're open to more, and just say, I'm open to receiving more love and abundance in the highest forms, whatever that might be. Abundance isn't just money in the pocket. It's basically, do you have a lot of people in your life that you can talk to? Do you have a lot of opportunities to grow and experience new things? To me, there's all kinds of wealth, all kinds of abundance. So looking beyond the balance sheet in our bank account and looking at other aspects of your life, some of you may be really fortunate and really wealthy when it comes to love and friends and health in your life. And these are just as important. aspects of your life. So tally it up in a bigger way, and then also think to yourself, what can I do? How else can I grow? What else is there out there? I am open and ready to receive. And we're looking at crystals that are associated with the ground, like the earth, root chakra. So do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? Do you believe in yourself? Working on self-confidence is going to be really important, particularly when it comes to wealth. All right, let's take a look at the cards now and see what other cards, what other messages rather, are coming through. A change or shift in your job, because actually this moth can be death. And we also got the death card here, just kind of illustrated differently. So we have not one, but possibly two positions that are showing change. This is how you can basically make the most of everything. So anywhere you want to see change, it can happen. For some of you, it's already happened to make your, like, this is for your health and well-being. So if you need to change any of these for your health and well-being, you're probably going to see also an increase in your wealth, because these two are connected. That's why I put them in the expanded forecast right next to each other. Looking at where you can change things or where you can move things around a little bit here. So some of you have already changed jobs, but some of you might be working too much. We talked about being attached or engaged or interested in what you're doing. All of these things are really important. So if that's not happening, that needs to be a part of the equation right now. Some of you want more ownership, more of a say. Queen of Pentacles, King of Wands, I'm the boss, right? So if you need to either have a higher title or own your own company or have more of a say, this is something you can do in this period right now. What I like overall is that things are moving in the right direction. The Ten of Pentacles is you. That's the value. Don't be afraid to ask for your value or stand up for your value, because others can see it. But if you're not sort of like standing firm to what you can do, what you can't do, what you're worth, then others aren't going to do that necessarily on your behalf. Those of you that want to write something or do some public speaking or put something out, this can sort of be connected to publishing with these two together. I like that. That looks good. It's really just a great month to network and to talk to other people. The two tens, 10 of Cups and 10 of Pentacles, are two of the most social tens, because the other two are not social, but this is all about people and this is all about connections. And people are going to open up doorways for you if you put yourself out there, which is one of the challenges, like getting out again. Let's see here. When it comes to being productive, some of you do need a little bit of me time, time to yourself. So negotiating that, making sure that people aren't breathing down your neck, I think would be ideal as well. But I can't find anything here that says that you're not going to be able to do what you set your mind to. The only thing that we need to see connecting are these two, the Page and the Ace. So making sure that you're listening to what people have to say, listening to your own intuition, your own body, not pushing yourself beyond the point of exhaustion. Also not allowing yourself to fall into fatigue and not getting stuff done. There's this, it seems like it's one direction or the other. I think if you can do that, you're going to be all right. But ultimately, I see new opportunities to bring in more money, to find a new job, to have more of a voice or a say. And for some of you, maybe there's a new way to kind of put things out there. As we're talking, I got a solar plexus hit energetically. It feels like someone is kind of like grabbing at my stomach. So for some of you, the challenge has to do with this. It's your boss or a friend in your life. The Queen of Pentacles, and this sort of, there needs to be a severing of ties here with that energy. There's someone, or it could also be the King of Wands coming in, but I feel like someone is wanting to keep you in your current state of energy. And there could also be some codependencies there. So work on meditation, work on strengthening the core, and work on that relationship a little bit, because I felt that, that pain there, okay? All right, let's move on to love and relationships. So love and relationships are multifaceted as well. It can be romantic, platonic, friends, family. So let's kind of see what energies are coming through and what the main message is first and foremost with love. We have the Nightingale spirit here. Love is all around. I love the synchronicities. did not do this on purpose, rather, but I think it's important to note that they are very synchronistic here. So the Nightingale, beautiful voice, beautiful sound, beautiful song, right? And it says love is all around, and we have like an old Victrola there. So being able to, some of you might have a hard time accepting a compliment is what I'm receiving as an intuitive hit. Don't. If someone comes to you and they're genuinely grateful or interested or sweet, there's not always a hidden motive. We didn't get the 5 or the 7 of swords. We didn't get the moon. We didn't get the devil. So there could be something sweet on the horizon for you. And don't meet it with suspicion. Just sort of open your heart, open your mind, and see what the person has to say, and see if the song sits well with you. I'm getting something sweet, and not to go too far down the rabbit hole sometimes. It can just be something beautiful, okay? We like that. Let's look at the cards here and briefly kind of apply this overall. When it comes to communication, the ability, like I said, to be succinct and direct, but also kind, I can't underline how important and how powerful that is. And I think that for many of you, there may be an opportunity to come out of your shell a little bit and in groups that are safe, and you're going to start to build up on the confidence a bit. All right, briefly looking at 3 different relationship statuses. If you're in an existing relationship, I'm just going to look holistically at this. It actually looks pretty good right now. What I get here is 2 very different types of people. This is a nurturer. This is a leader and a doer. This is someone that will probably be a little bit more expressive. This is someone that will show in actions, but maybe not in words. So the big opportunity in existing relationships first, before I move on to those that are looking for love, is open communication. And maybe not starting with the critical thing, just sort of like listening and saying, how are you doing today? Or following up. Hey, you mentioned this. How did that go? Asking a question or checking in first, and then getting to whatever it is that you want to talk about. Because then you can sort of like take a pulse and see where that person's at. It does feel like one or both parties are reserved or pulled back a little bit, not necessarily for any other reason than busyness, because I see a lot of energy around finances, around work, around, again, like we said earlier, extracurriculars. So pulling yourself out of that and trying to just sort of be more having fun, like be a partner. I think that's going to be key. If you're fatigued, get some rest before you have any important conversations with your partner. Don't do that on an empty stomach or an empty tank when it comes to sleep, for sure. But the good news here is we have an ace and we have a court card when I'm looking at future, which is good. It feels like communication is going to open up. Both of you are very sort of stubborn and stalwart, but I do feel like you're going to be able to improve things if you want to, okay? Generally speaking, pretty good. Maybe better to talk to your partner during the evening than the beginning of the day or the middle of the day, because we have that nocturnal card as well. Embrace the changes that you're going through and your partner's going through as well. That's part of for better or for worse, right? It's about allowing for someone to express, explore, and go into new places. Okay, so it's pretty manageable for existing partnerships. I like it. If you're looking for love right now, don't let anyone push you don't be pushed because of your parents or your family or societal expectations. This is a card of being pushed. This can also extend, by the way, to existing relationships. Don't force the issue with someone. And in this case, if it's someone saying like, well, you know, who are you dating or are you dating? It's always a strange question. Is it really their business? If it isn't, you could just say, that's not my priority. You can be very firm on that if that's not your priority. Or you could say, you know, I'm good. How are you doing? What's going on with your, you can always kind of redirect with another question. So don't be pushed into something because someone expects that at a certain point in your life, something's happening, and don't feel like anything's wrong because you are or are not in a relationship. It's your business, folks. I do think that for many of you, work seems to be central. Work on yourself, school and education, or finances. They're sort of like the bedrock of this reading here. It's how people are seeing you, it's what's going on around you, and it's what you've been focusing on. And it feels like you want to finish something first. So finish what you need to finish what you've started, and then come out of your shell a little bit. If you're looking for love, it's going to happen in an organic way, not necessarily by swiping left or right on an app. This is friends and family, this is coworkers. And at the nexus of this, we have an ace. So there could be a conversation that sparked during one of these sort of gatherings. And I see a wise energy coming through here with the Hermit and the the King of Wands here. So it's worth putting yourself out there for sure. Nice fire sign energy coming through. They see your perspective and your potential as well. The Hermit sees the light. This is a card of light because it's fire, but it also, there's a spark between you. What are you going to do with the spark? That's the question. Do you have time for it? So can you find love? For sure. Put yourself out there, but they're going to want I'm going to put it this way. It's almost like it's like hard to get. They're playing hard to get, or they need you to check up on them. So don't be afraid to ask them out or check in again. Don't be pushy, but one checkup is good. And expressing your appreciation is good. Showing, whether it's with flowers or whatever, showing it is going to be a good win there. All right. For those of you that are happily single, let's see what messages are coming through for you. If you're happily single, I see so much growth and movement in career and personal development right now. This is personal development. This is your money or job, and it's changing and it's growing and it's moving. And there's a lot of opportunities. Your biggest challenge is going to be saying no, actually. And also standing your ground. But I see lots of incoming relationship opportunities for you. You may be happily single, but the networking potential is off the charts this month. So definitely have fun with that. One of the cool things about being happily single is your schedule may ostensibly be more flexible. And if it is more flexible, then definitely say yes to some of these conferences and invitations and social gatherings, because by the way, you could spark a new business deal there. Okay. So I love what I'm seeing for all aspects of relationships this month. It looks pretty good, folks. Okay. Let's move on to your destiny card, which is a trajectory, one that you can change. This is basically something that changes from month to month because, like a GPS, you're tuning into what's right for you. Hopefully you're making some course adjustments, and that's going to make every month a little bit different. So we have an interesting card here, and I think it closely connects to the Nine of Wands. So the whip, not an ideal energy or metaphor. This could be someone that is trying to stop you. I love how Medusa is on this whip. Her sight alone, just a gaze, can stop someone in their tracks. So someone could just be trying to stop you from progressing and trying to redirect you. And you're not going to allow that to happen. And we're going back to the center card. This is holding your ground and just saying, no, that doesn't work for me, or I stand firm to where what I stand for, whatever. You'll figure out how to articulate it. But basically, don't let someone push, force, or there's a better word that I want to say here, devalue your contributions, because you're making amazing strides in your life right now. And this is just someone that wants to stop that. And you're not going to allow that to happen. Like in politics, what a whip does is tries to get people in order. And no matter how you look at this old symbol, it's not a good one, because, you don't want to, whenever I see a movie and you see a horse whip or whatever, it's like, no, there's got to be a better way to motivate and things like that. So I would like to encourage all of us to elevate the conversation when someone tries to use a verbal whip or tries to use their power in a way that would be kind of like tantamount to that, and instead sort of stand strong and kind of hold a mirror to them and say, you're asking me to be something that I'm not, and that's inauthentic. And if you really respect and embrace and appreciate me, you're not going to ask me to be inauthentic. I've stated where I stand, and if that's not what you like, I can't change that part of me. That's it. I don't know how, I would love it if I could always say it like that in the moment. It probably would come out differently, but I would just say, you don't see me, you're not listening. But that's what Spirit came through and used my mouth for a second. It's basically saying, don't ask me to be something that I'm not. I don't want to be inauthentic. This is what you want. This is what I want. And we're at that liminal period in between the two. You're either going to take a step through and see it from my perspective, or I'm going to maybe walk in another direction, remembering Hecate, where she has 3 different directions. It doesn't have to just be a duel. You can go in another direction if you need to. Okay? And that's the message with destiny. Let's pull one card for the big idea and see if there's a focal point that can help you embrace the changes and the opportunities and all that this month has to offer. Yeah, it's a time for birthing and beginning. The Sun card is charismatic. It's about not one, but we have two babies on this particular card. But it's about allowing yourself to simply have fun, be yourself, and let go of something. And it's one of the strongest cards also in the major arcana because it's the glue, it's the central figure in our solar system. So don't be afraid to be the boss. And don't let someone take your power. The solar plexus is where I felt the energy. So if you feel that, that is where the cord needs to be cut, basically. Okay? And something different has to sort of like fill that void. You're going to fill the void. You're going to cut the cord and you're going to find something better. But ultimately, this Sun card nicely pairs up with the Queen of Pentacles. It's the mother and it's the child, basically. The card is reversed, so you may need to do something for yourself. People may think it's selfish, but it may be self-preservation. It may be exactly what you need to nurture yourself. Let's take a look at the blessings and the blocks for this month and see if there's some additional messages for things that can lift you up and things that might make things more difficult. All right, for lifting you up and helping you out, we have the Two of Wands here. And the Two of Wands is in the reverse state. And I reminded everyone earlier that for many of you, there could be that sort of feeling of, am I looking at being afraid of the unknown, or am I looking at the blank slate as being opportunistic? Opportunistic meaning that, the world is my oyster. I can basically do anything that I set my mind to. And then it gets really fun when you're in that energy, right? When you start to think like, well, maybe I could try this. Maybe I could try that. I also love, I haven't used this deck in a long time. It's a wonderful one. I love that he's on a stump and we basically have two wands, which can also represent like new starts. So it's the end of something old and it's the foundation on which you stand right now. And then there's these two new sprouts, these two new opportunities on the horizon. I think some of you may just be kind of like at an unenviable task of trying to decide between two things that are exciting. So in this case, you pick the one where your heart skips an extra beat and take it from there. All right, so let's see. Did I just pull the blessing? That was a blessing yeah, I just did the blessing. So let's go ahead and do the block. All right, so the block for the month ahead is, usually I pull both. That was interesting. All right, the block for the month ahead is the Moon reverse. So it's being afraid of looking at things that other people don't want to talk about. Sometimes we see what needs to be fixed, we see what needs to be changed, and we don't want to rock the boat, and so we don't say anything. So don't be afraid to say what's necessary. It's so interesting. I've looked at this deck many, many times, and I've never paid attention. Literally, we actually have a little block in that one. That could be indicative of a lot of things. It could be Pandora's box, you're afraid of opening, or a can of worms. But this is also the block that happens when you're competitive, and the two animals at the forefront often indicate things that can waste your time. The path of expansion is beyond the two animals, the wolf and the dog. So if you can get past that, then you're going to be okay. So don't let competition, people's conflict, or also anybody saying something critical get in the way of you progressing, because there's too much to gain from this month and from this experience in the moment. All right, let's see what you chose for me, and then I'll choose a card. We're gonna let's see how to be more decisive. Okay, good choice. So I'm gonna switch it up here, and we're gonna do the viewer's choice, and then I'll take a look and do a reader's choice. So how to be more decisive. Thank you to everybody who voted, and let's take a look at opportunities where you can basically make the most of things here. How to be more decisive. What can you do to basically make your mind up? All right, Seven of Pentacles. It's a question of, for some of you, don't be impatient with yourself. Here's the first thing. Seven of Pentacles is growth. I love how we actually see a plant growing here. And we see that it takes time. You're not going to it's not like Jack and the Beanstalk. Something's not going to happen overnight. So how to be more decisive. I'm going to actually help you make a better decision here. It's a little bit taking it a step further. So how to make the best decision or how to make your mind up. Don't go for a quick or easy win. Don't promise too much and don't extend yourself too far and don't spend too much on something. It's basically about being a little bit more conservative, a little bit more discerning and picky with your resources. And in doing so, you're going to foster and allow for growth to happen in a lot more sustainable fashion. And again, it's easier said than done because sometimes we just want things to grow and change and move overnight. But, I think that the biggest piece of advice I could give you here is to be patient with yourself, not to rush it, and to know that you're already on that trajectory of movement and of growth. The card did come through reverse. I was just checking my playback here to make sure. And the reversal of this one also is saying that some of you may be afraid that you're going to repeat a lesson from the past, but you're not. So if let's say you had an experience with a debt or had an injury or something that set you back, because the Seven of Pentacles can come on the heels of a setback. That came through as a timer. Like basically it wanted to kind of slow you down a bit so that you could be aligned with the synchronicity. And now you just have to learn the lesson that you experienced there and embrace it and apply it so that it doesn't repeat, because there's something better waiting on the horizon for you. So whatever it was in the past that was uncomfortable, you're healing now. You don't have to go to that again, and better things await you. Okay? If you're looking at jobs or opportunities and they are underfunded or unrealistic, don't do them, or speak up before you engage and talk about what you're going to be on the line for, because this is unrealistic. This is having one person do the job of three, or for instance, or something, and you're like, I'm not set up for success. So don't let someone spread your time and energy too thin, and don't intentionally spread it too thin. Okay, let me take a look at things and see what I want to do for the reader's choice. Let's see here. So many great cards today and so many opportunities. I think I want to help you with figuring out how to stand your ground, okay? Especially, it kind of helps you with the Nine of Wands, the King of Wands, and this Whip card. So how to stand your ground against a difficult person or with a difficult conversation. So let's see here. What can you do to make sure that someone doesn't push you into a direction that you don't want to be pushed? All right, I like this. So at the end of the day, the Eight of Wands is a really good card for staying busy, keeping busy, getting back to work. So if it is someone that's just distracting you, this is about saying, I'm so sorry, I really don't have time to talk about this right now. We can talk later. It's about getting back to work. This is also reminding you that there's a lot of other people that you can lean on, that you can talk to, that you can tap into. So you're not standing alone, and you shouldn't be the only one that's sort of taking all of this energy face on. So you could call a meeting, you could ask for time, you could say, again, do you want to help out with this? If someone's critiquing something, and let them apply and see, they'll be like, you know what, it's good. Because a funny aside, this was a very, very, very long time ago. This would have been like 2002 or so. So yeah, almost 2 decades ago. I was working one of my first jobs, and I had an art director at the time. Maybe he was a creative director. And I did great work, but he had a very specific way that he wanted Photoshop layers organized. And I was like, it was super bold of me, and I would never have said this, but it was the end of the day. We were like an hour or two into overtime. And he was like, maybe you want to just nestle that folder and do this? I'm like, do you like the design? He said, I love it. I said, great. I said, why don't I just send you the file? You can organize all the stuff later. He said, we're good. It's fine. He never asked me again. He never pushed again. It was basically like, this isn't important to the task at hand. He never touched the files. It was for me alone. And it was just a moment where I'm like, are we really going to waste another half hour on me sort of like reorganizing this PSD? Or can I put Photoshop to the document? Or can we move on to the next thing? So it was a micromanaging moment where I just called him on it in a wink and a nod sort of way. And he laughed and never bothered me about it again. So there's a lot of work to do. Is this worth it? Probably not. And if you're doing good quality work, and if you're really a good contributor in something, this also works in relationships where someone may want you to put the silverware away differently. You could say, it's cleaned, it's in the drawer, and I did it. So if you want to do it, you can put the forks in this area and the spoons here, but I just did it and that's good enough. So it's really about letting go of the need to control. So this could be a check for you. It could also be a check for someone else. So you can't have it always. If I do it, I'll do the best I can do, and I can't make it yours. But if the end product is the same, the silverware is clean or the document is perfect, or like the end result of it is, no one is really seeing the underpinnings. Who cares, right? Bigger, better things. That's the message there. Okay? You can do it in a way that, again, is non-confrontational. I was kind of just being sassy a little bit, but not in a way that was, he laughed, I laughed, and I was like, I shouldn't have said that, but no harm done, and it was probably good. It saved me a lot of time later. So you never know. If you have to speak up, folks, okay? Let's move on to Sun, Rising, and Moon messages and see what additional insights the cards have to lend on this. Sun, Rising, Moon. Okay, as I said before, and I see a question in the chat, you can use this for Sun, Rising, Moon, and Venus. You should probably watch for Sun, Rising, and Moon at least. And yes, you can apply it to Vedic if you want to, but I read tropical. Just whatever works for you. These readings are here for you, okay? Looking at the Sun sign message, this is a month for healing when I'm looking at Aries Sun. So the Three of Swords in reverse, if you're going to get the Three of Swords, this is about as positive and auspicious as it can come through. It's basically saying, I am prioritizing self-care, self-management, happiness, and healing. So that's what you should be focusing on in this period of time. But it's an acknowledgement. There might be something that is painful, that hurts. And death, change, transformation, movement, it takes a little bit of time. But guess what, folks? It's opening up abundance for you. And when you look at something that didn't go the way you wanted, it can be a blessing in disguise. So for many of you, not being able to do something anymore opens a path. And since this month is all about the revelation, the revealing of new passageways and pathways, then this is a blessing in disguise. But what can you do right now? Take care of yourself. Do things that bring joy in your life. Talk to a counselor if you need to. Maybe when it comes to those of you that are looking for love, really focus on healing. Because this could be a rebound energy. And then also don't give too much power to somebody. So if somebody says no, or they don't like something, or they don't like you, one opinion of many on this planet. They don't need to have as much power as they do. Focus on your own love, support, and security in yourself, and that's going to be the most powerful thing, okay? So underneath all of this is the heart, and it's just saying I'm going to listen to and focus on my heart and my happiness in this period of time, and I think that's a good message for Aries Sun. Aries Rising. By the way, one last thing with Aries Sun, you can't make everybody happy. You have to focus on making yourself happy, and that means that you might have to make a brave and wise decision, pulling back, saying no, breaking up, moving on, and it's for your own well-being, and that's good for you in that case, okay? Now for Aries Rising or Ascendant. Who's the boss? That's what this card is asking, Chariot in reverse. So many of you may be in a position where people want to know, do you stand for this or do you stand for that? Are you in or are you out? This is also a period of time where you have a chance to take more control or more ownership of something. There could be a little bit of a tug of war. I felt that earlier. I don't want to feel it again, but I definitely felt a little pain in the solar plexus. So if you need to move in a different direction so that you feel more supported, more empowered, do it. Ultimately, let's look at it upright, folks. We have a power card, and it's in an area that Rising and Ascendant that can touch work and external sort of like groups of people. So when it comes to relationship, you have a chance to be more assertive. When it comes to work, you have a chance to step up. You have a chance to get more sort of visibility, credit, money, etc. So it portends good things. It's just about a course correction for some of you. That's why it's reversed. Okay. Looking at moon sign messages, we have the Eight of Cups, also reversed, making and breaking cycles. The upright card, I love, you know what? There's certain cards in tarot that really tell me a lot about the illustrator and the deck in general. Eight of Cups is always fascinating. There's a deck that has like Jupiter on it. There's one that has broken cups. Sometimes we see people in the traditional card taking a hike and like exploring. And in this one, we see someone looking at where they've been and like what has been lost. And, you know, really, is this enough for me? It's kind of like that question point. Is this going to be sustaining for my future state? So self-sustaining energy. So it feels like you're on the precipice of breaking an old cycle where a lot of your energy was to feed, sustain, and to help others, and you're going to focus on yourself. What can you do during this period? Take a break, take a vacation, take a sabbatical, walk away. It can be a 10-minute break, folks. It doesn't have to be a 10-week break. You could just say, let me go get a cup of coffee. Let me take a walk, or come walk with me. Let's walk and talk. Ideally, though, with Eight of Cups, you need to do it on your own. So just say, I'll be right back. I need to just get some fresh air, and then let's have this conversation. And in that moment, that's when you can start to collect your thoughts and get ready and get yourself out of a situation and away from their energy to figure out, what do I think? Okay? So do that as much as possible this month. Get space, create space. 5 minutes can be the Eight of Cups. Walking outside, walking the dog, going to the kitchen, getting some water, taking a deep breath at your desk, closing your eyes. They're all Eight of Cups. You don't have to go for a hike, folks. These are symbols. So just collect your thoughts. And by collecting your thoughts, you're going to be more powerful. And then you can make and break cycles as needed this month. Okay? Good card, powerful message. All right, folks, I think we went through everything today. We did indeed. So what we're going to get ready for is the meditation, sound bath, and the final card. If it's your first time here, I offer an opportunity at the very end to ask a question. And not one that you're going to type out, but one that you're going to send out through your third eye. So be thinking about what it is that you want to intend to the universe and ask. We'll meditate briefly with one another, and then I'll pull a card and see where we stand on that. Before we do it, give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to follow me across social media as well. A reminder that I don't give private readings, by the way. And also, if you want to give back, it helps the channel. I appreciate it. And it's optional, but thank you so much. All right, let's get ready for that meditation. So with respect to the meditation, looking at the cards today, there's a bunch of things that I want to kind of focus on. I love the moth right here. The moth is a great symbol that we could work with. I also think we should just go with the liminal stuff that we talked about earlier. So the gateway. Let's work with that. Okay, so if you've ever seen like areas around the Grand Canyon, there's some parts of Utah where there are these delicate arches, and they're made of stone. And it's sort of like these, basically almost the color of Sedona stones too. So sort of like these brownish rust-colored stones, and they are actually kind of like these arches. So imagine that you're standing at this beautiful stone pillar or archway, and you can see it's not sort of like overpowering. You can even see there's a point where it's almost broken. So it's this very delicate arch that you're going to step beneath, and allow yourself underneath the arch to take a moment and look in both directions, just like Janus, the two-headed god, or the two-faced god. Look at what it took to get to this moment in time. We're often very critical, right? We say, I wish I could have done this. I wish I would have done that. I should have done this better. Take a moment to think of all the things you got through. Maybe there was a really difficult financial situation. Maybe a relationship proved particularly challenging in your life. Or maybe you accomplished a goal or dream and it's a celebratory sort of thing, like, I did it, right? No matter what it was that you went through, you did survive. You're here today, and that's worth celebrating. Now take a look with an intention towards the future. And instead of beating yourself up, say, I learned from this what I want to do. This is my intention for the next day, for the next week, or for the next month. And what you can say now to the universe as we meditate is, Enlighten me. Show me the desired or the optimal path to take. And imagine as you look through the future gate, that's the past gate, you're underneath it now, the stone. You start to see energetic, it's almost like a superhighway, right? You can see these lines of light coming out from your heart. I want you to focus until your heart lights the path that is the brightest and that you feel the most affinity towards. And then ask your guides and ask Spirit, what should I be looking for? And then also intend, I am ready to see it. I'm ready to receive it. Okay? Let's meditate together, folks, and then I'll take a look at your final question. Remember to breathe and just relax. Take a deep breath. Stretch your arms out for a moment. Bring your hands back right in front of the heart. And give a little bit of gratitude to yourself, to your guides, and pay attention to the path that has been illuminated in front of you. And know that each and every day of the month ahead, you're going to be guided down that path. Every day provides an opportunity to take another step in the direction that you're seeking. All right. Welcome back, everybody. If you haven't already opened your eyes, please do so now and focus on the final question that you have for me. We'll take a look and see what Spirit has to say with respect to that. We have a very fortunate card coming through. We have the Knight of Cups in the upright position. So as a yes or no question, if you phrased it in that sort of way, this is an affirmative. This says yes. What I like about this, if I were just to kind of talk about it for a second, one thing that Spirit wants for you to do in this moment in time is to be comfortable in your own skin, to be unafraid of making a splash, to have some fun. This is a very playful Knight card. And to take a pause from the current path or journey and prioritize friends, family, just being with, the people that you love the most. And then also expressing yourself in just a joyful and authentic way as well. This is a very fun card and a very fun illustration here. So yes, there could also be a Knight of Cups energy entering your life for those of you that are looking for a connection, whether it's friend or love. This is a really good energy. And when you're having fun, that's when this energy comes through. So the Knight of Cups acts as a sort of a magnet and brings in good things for you. Okay? And that's all about creativity, fun, love, playful sort of energy. All of these things are going to help you be more of a magnet. Okay? And that is what I'm picking up here. All right. Some of you may also feel like you're going upstream, and that's okay. Hey, Paul, you want to say hi to the collective here? Apollo's stretching a little bit, and he's saying, don't forget to have fun, and definitely, Dad, take me for a walk, which we'll do in just a second. I want to take a moment here at the end just to extend some gratitude. I'm trying a lot of new things on the channel, so thank you everybody for giving me a moment or two to explore some of those new techniques. I do appreciate that. I'm going to put the Apollo down so I can focus on all of this. I want to take a couple minutes here, first and foremost, to thank those who gave back today. So I don't think we had any new members, but if we did, let me quickly thank them. No new members today. So let me see if there's any messages. I think we got a few stickers. I can see them on my monitor. So I'll say thank you for the stickers. And then we'll chat for a second and wrap up. Okay. Thank you to Monica, Maria, and Raven. I appreciate all three of you for giving back today. Much appreciated. Good to have all of you here. So yes, I just kicked off this new month and we're going to be trying some new things. One of the things that I'm testing a little bit right now is doing some featured clips. This year I want to kick off my podcast, so I'm trying to also work smarter and I keep adding all these new things on my plate. So one of the things that I've noticed is that many of you have asked for shorter readings, so I'm doing some things to create efficiencies in them and try not to lose the overall integrity of everything. So some of that might be just taking out the center portion where I just read the cards because I know most channels do 20-minute reads. So you can have that and then you can also have this. So I'm going to try that approach for a little bit and see if I can't cut it up in every piece until I find an editor because it's just too much work. And I don't understand why the timestamps aren't enough, but I know that some of you are busy. So I'm trying to find the halfway point. So thank you so much for everybody for your patience and your feedback, and we'll continue to try new things this year. In the meantime, wishing you all the best. Have a great day ahead, and I'll be back again on Friday to work with Taurus. So until then, have a great one, and thank you very much. Bye.